Hello everyone, the summer version of Bucs Talk is once again up and running at BucsHockey.com. I'm Scott Montesano, once again welcoming you and thanking you for taking time to pull us up on the internet. This is the second to last edition of our summer series as the off-season itself is winding down. The dozen or so high school-aged players have already arrived in the town and are settling into classes at Valley High, and beginning next week, the ice surface will be down at Buccaneer Arena. It is getting close, everyone. A short 15-minute edition of Bucs Talk this week, and we are simply going to reset the scene with training camp approaching September 9th. Now, in 2 weeks, which will be our final edition of the off-season Bucs Talk, we'll sit down with head coach Red Simon and get his thoughts as far as what he expects out of camp and out of the jam-packed preseason schedule that the team has. So a lot coming up, fans, in the next few months because the season right around the corner. What we're going to do right now, fans, pretty much reset the scene, kind of give you all a chance to hit the pause button and head into the season which is coming up. Now, this is a great time of the year. Fantastic time of the year where that anticipation is growing. Now, this is definitely not the best time of the season because the season hasn't even started yet. You haven't even started training camp in the world of the Des Moines Buccaneers, but it's still a great time of the year. You're sitting there and the anticipation is there. The excitement is there. You have ordered your meal. You can see the chef preparing it, and you know that, and you can start to smell your meal. You can start to smell it a little bit. You can't see it. The waiter or waitress isn't close to bringing it to you, but you can see the chef preparing it, and you know it's not going to be too much longer before it's there. Again, fantastic time. Anticipation is the highest it is, and for many of you, coming up in a few days, we've got Labor Day coming up the first Monday in September, and when Labor Day hits, for many people, that's when it's all eyes forward towards fall and towards sports like hockey, for instance. You start thinking more indoor sports, and I know it's a little different out here in the Midwest where I'm from in upstate New York, in Utica, New York, you start school, and in fact the high school football season as well, the week after Labor Day. So if Labor Day is on Monday, you begin on Wednesday or you begin on Thursday. I know it's a little different out this way in states like Iowa and North Dakota and Wisconsin. They get underway. Well, right now, schools are already underway. But I think the same holds true where your thought that summer is over is when Labor Day hits. And, of course, that's coming up soon. Fantastic time of the year in this respect as well. As we said, players are starting to arrive in the town. We have about half of the training camp roster is already here. We have a lot of players who are still high school aged. They're enrolled at Valley. They're getting acclimated to not only a new town, but obviously a whole new high school regimen for them. We also have a few players who are taking classes at Des Moines Area Community College, and we'll talk about that in a second. But for the players and parents, especially the newbies, they'll all come to the rink, they'll check in at Buccaneer Arena, and they're so respectful. They're so respectful. They walk around, and maybe I've had a chance to intercept them. They're walking around. They don't know where they're supposed to totally be going. They might be looking for Reg and trying to find where his office is. And I'll be coming from somewhere, and I'll intercept them. And they're so respectful, and they're so excited to meet me, and they're so excited to talk to little old me, Scott Montesano. And then in a few days, they realize I have no say on the ice time. And once they all realize I have no say on the ice time, their eyes kind of turn in a little bit of disappointment. It's like when a boy learns that his father isn't perfect. Remember when you learned your father or mother weren't perfect and your eyes kind of turn down in shame? It's the same for the players when they realize that all the kissing up to me serves them absolutely no purpose whatsoever. But again, they're fantastically respectful at this time of the year. Players getting adjusted as they come in. And I wanted to bring this up here on Bucs Talk in this edition. We mentioned how Buccaneers training camp is coming up in a couple of weeks. September 9th is when the camp is going to get underway. That is when the players, as a team, will hit the ice as a unit for the very first time. The Buccaneers are one of the last teams in the league to begin their training camp. There are a number of teams who have already hit the ice or are in the process of hitting the ice in the next few days, and we've talked about this before, the benefits of waiting a little bit. Now, there's a drawback to waiting a bit, and that obviously is that on paper you won't be as strong early in the season. Obviously, that did not affect the Buccaneers last year. They had a great start last season when they started late, but the benefits outweigh the negatives. This is a long season. We've talked about it before, fans. It's almost ridiculously long. First game's October 1st. If you go the distance, you could win the Clark Cup darn near when these players are leaving high school. These high school players are done with their high school classes. It's a long season, and we tend to forget the age that we're dealing with. So you want to give these players that extra couple weeks to be home if they are out of the high school age. For those who are of high school age, it's a lot for them to have to acclimate to a new school, to a new surrounding, and if you toss the hockey right on top of it right away, sometimes it's a little bit of overkill. You want them to focus on one thing at a time. It's a pretty stressful, pretty traumatic, in many ways, transformation for the rookies right now to be in a new school. That's enough as it is. Let them get acclimated to a brand new building in a new town. Give them a couple of weeks to settle into that, and then you start tossing the hockey on top of it. There's a lot of time, a lot of ice time coming up, that even if you were to wait the extra 2 weeks like the Buccaneers are, you're going to get more than enough time to make up for it. Now, there are other teams that like to hit the ice right away because they want to get that practice going right away, and there's nothing really wrong with that. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with what the Buccaneers are doing. I've always preferred kind of waiting a little bit, waiting after Labor Day, because it is a very long season as it is. There's going to be a lot of ice time, and even if you are not, we'll talk about this when the season gets going, the biggest thing that takes a hit is usually your special teams. Usually your special teams is the biggest thing that takes a hit, and even that statistically sometimes is not affected by a later training camp start. So a lot of benefits and positives to starting later like the Buccaneers are. Right now, for the players who are in town, they've got enough on their plate with school and getting homework underway and finding some friends who maybe aren't members of the team in those hallways. Speaking of training camp and what's going on, I wanted to bring this up too, though. I mentioned we have some players going to Des Moines Area Community College, and some of you fans would understand this. For our players who are 19, for our players who are 20, they are right now at a point where their peers at their age are freshmen, sophomores, sometimes going into a junior year at college, and nobody wants to be a 25, 26-year-old senior. Nobody wants to be that in academic standing. So in order to maybe try to keep pace a little bit with their peers, their age peers, a lot of players will try to take some classes at Des Moines Area Community College. A few have also, in the past, enrolled in classes at Drake, and it does not affect their NCAA eligibility. It does not start the clock running either on their NCAA eligibility. They still have 4 years of hockey remaining, even when they start taking these classes, because DMAC, because Drake do not have varsity hockey programs. Because they don't have varsity hockey programs, they're able to take a few credits here and there so that they're able to keep their heads above water and try to keep some bit of a pace so that they're not just entering school at 19, 20, being just a straight-on freshman and trying to keep up in their studies. So you do have a lot of players in town also going to DMAC. They've arrived in early as well. Training camp gets going in earnest on September 9th. That is when the players will hit the ice as a team. There will be a few early birds getting a chance to cut into the fresh ice surface next week once it is complete. But September 9th is when Red Simon will put on the old whistle and put the guys through the paces. Once again, more than 30 players in camp. And I do have right in front of me here the Des Moines Buccaneers training camp roster. I'm not going to test fate and try to give you any sneak peeks. If I trust my manhood that is below my stomach, I'm not going to give you any of these roster names quite yet. But you're more than welcome to come out to any one of the training camp sessions and watch Red Simon, as he did last year, opening up the sessions to the public. You're more than welcome to come, and if you want to ask, hey, who's that guy, we'll tell you who that guy is, but cannot quite give you that training camp roster yet. So if you're looking for a roster, we'll have a roster coming out once we get to the preseason games. But what we can tell you is more than 30 players in camp, and just like it was last season, it is a second tryout. Nobody is locked into a spot on this team. It is a second tryout, so it will be another competitive camp. Again, can't give you too many sneak peeks, but the theme of the roster is experience. We can give you that. It's not necessarily returners. There are some returners, but you're going to see a lot of experience on this roster with veterans with junior hockey experience in other leagues. That is one of the keys on this roster that you'll notice when you get a look at it. And that's even taking the fact that we've got 30-plus guys in camp, and obviously not everybody's going to make the team. You still have a lot of experience from some returners and from these newbies, but these veterans that are being brought in as well. We were going through this a couple days ago. The Buccaneers lost a lot from last season. A lot of the Buccaneers' top players from last season no longer with the team. Your Dan DeSalvos, your Austin Caldwells, your Mitch Canes, they're gone. You had to fill those shoes with some older players, and the Buccaneers have done that, as well as a core of youngins as well. So when you get a chance to look at the roster, that is something you are going to notice in due time. I think fans will also be happy to see some of the names and faces that did make it through the June camp. One other thing we have to bring up as far as training camp, we know about the preseason schedule. The now 7 games in 8 days. Buccaneers will open up the preseason schedule on September 16th at Waterloo. Now they've added a game on Saturday, September 17th at Sioux Falls. So add that in. Buccaneers are home for a preseason game the afternoon of Sunday, the 18th at 3 o'clock against Sioux Falls. The only off day in this period of preseason games is that Monday. Back at it again at home on that Tuesday against Waterloo at 7, and then it's the Fall Classic Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then after that a week plus off until the regular season opener. Ice, by the way, fans, if you want to get a chance to look at ice being made, you can take a look at ice being made at Buccaneer Arena on Monday. We'll be going through all the steps of making ice on Monday, and Tuesday it begins early Monday morning, 9, 10 o'clock, with them pouring the first layer of water on the ice. Then they'll start painting in the early afternoon. So if you want to come out and see ice being made at Buccaneer Arena, do recommend you come on out on Monday and get a chance to take a look at Dave Wilson and his crew putting the ice surface together. It's a simple process. It is time consuming though, and it is one that comes with the pressure of, if you mess it up, you've messed up the ice for the entire year. So it is a fine art to making ice. It is a rather simple process. When it's like making a lasagna with the layering, but at the same time, it's one that if you mess it up, you can't get too many redos. So there is pressure and there is some fine art to doing it. Again, a short version of Bucs Talk this week. In 2 weeks, we'll have the Red Simon interview going into training camp. And then during the preseason, we're not going to have radio coverage of those preseason games on the all-new 940 Bucs Broadcast Network. But what we are going to do during the preseason is have post-game interviews with Red Simon that we'll be putting up here on our YouTube site. And, of course, then once the season gets going, fans, we've got the live version of Bucs Talk, which will be going on again pretty much every Monday throughout the season at the Overtime Neighborhood Hub for Sports and Grub on 86th Street in Urbandale, and of course all the games being broadcast on 9:40 a.m. Big thanks to everybody who made this broadcast possible, and of course a big thanks to all of you who found us on the internet today. Beautiful weather outside, so I tip of the cap to you for fighting us. Fans, it's a great big beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. We'll talk to you soon. So long, everybody.